Hey there everybody, and welcome back to another completely random codeless application development tutorial. Today's video is covering the basics of how to create a ticketing application, so we're going to be making this completely free without code. I'm going to be walking you through what the final product will look like over here on the right where I'm screen mirroring my phone, and then we're going to walk over how to actually use this application. Now I'm excited for this one because it's a little bit more complex, but it actually uses almost everything that was covered in my how to create a social or sharing app playlist. So for that reason, I will be putting a link to that playlist in the description. If there are any gaps in this video, I apologize if I don't cover everything. Basically, I literally duplicated the app from that series. So there's an Appgyver duplicate feature that's very, very easy to use from the home screen. I duplicated that app and I have all of the pages here. So here's how the video is going to be broken down. First, we are going to go over the application and how it works. Then we're going to go over how you could use it because you're going to have a front end and a back end to work with. And then we're going to cover how to actually build the application itself. So it wouldn't be a YouTube video if I didn't advertise other videos of mine, so I'll put those in the description and I'll tell you about them as we go along. And it also wouldn't be a YouTube video if I didn't ask for you to like and subscribe and check out the channel for new content. So let's go ahead and jump straight in. First things first, we're going to log into the application. So we'll just type in some random letters and then we'll type in @something.com. Then we'll type in a random password. Now when we click sign in, you'll see the password is not correct. But if we click create account, the password will then be correct. So the important thing is you can now sign in. So it's not much authentication, but it does require the correct password to sign in. So at the very least, that part is going to be good for everyone, but you can look into setting up better security on your end. Now, this part we'll build out together, but basically when you click on the button, it takes you to the technical issues section. Now, if you don't like the look of this, you can have what looks like different tabs, different buttons, different categories. You can use cards. The idea is you can set this up however you need it. So here I have the name. So if I were a customer submitting a ticket, let's just say I need, we'll follow something else that I already have. So we'll say password reset. So I'll put password reset. And then the description is I'm locked out. And then posted by, I'll just put Tyler this time to show you that it's a different ticket. So we'll click submit ticket. And after a second or two, you'll see it load down here. Now, one thing to note is this will hit Firebase a lot, so the reads and writes that you're allocated, so you may want to look into doing some API throttling. So what I would recommend there, check out my video, which I'll link in the description, to kind of learn how to limit the number of API requests. But now that this request is submitted, you'll see the timestamp here. I'm not sure if this is the timestamp for Firebase or for Appgyver. Both are in different countries from myself, so I'm not quite sure where that time comes from, so you may want to do some additional research on your end, but I'm going to assume it's the Firebase timestamp. So when I click on password reset, you'll see everything is set here, no problems at all. And when we go over to Firebase, you'll notice all of these collections have coffee names. That's because they're from the other video, and I'm just going to leave those. We're working out of the miscellaneous forum. So you'll see when we're scrolling through, we have the same 3 requests here. So that's the basics of how the app works. Part 2 of the video, we're going to cover how you can use this. So you could distribute this application to customers or whatever party that you need. They can log in and submit their tickets, and we will cover how to set up to automatically send in posted by, so customers can't put whatever they want. It'll automatically add their email. But that's the general idea. So first things first, when it comes to the requests, if you go to the authentication tab, you'll see all of the users. So when they get password reset requests, you can reset, disable, or delete the account. So this is the basic IT function there. And when it comes to the database itself, which is where the tickets will be, each one of these categories could be a different series of requests. For example, password resets. Then you could have one for hardware troubleshooting, network troubleshooting, or if you're maybe in food service, you could do it for different food service items. This is not limited to IT. So if I'm working on tickets that are submitted in the miscellaneous forum. Let's say they're password resets. So I click here and I see reset my password, password reset. I can add a field, and these are not going to be customer facing. So if I put in the field, we'll just say note 1. And over here I could put password reset. And I can click add. Now, when I go look at the Tyler Talks password reset, which is right here, when I click it, you'll see this isn't broken, which can sometimes happen if you're sending API information back and forth. Basically, these fields are separate. So I can add in an additional, we'll just say note 2. So as you're working the ticket, I'll just put fixed. And you'll see that it doesn't show up over here, but it doesn't break the link, so I have my internal management here. And then when the issue is resolved, I can simply go to delete document and click start delete. And then you'll see in a couple of seconds, it will then delete over here. Now, this does take away your ability to do reporting, so if you want to export these out or figure that out on your end, you're more than welcome to. Just one thing to consider. But that at least shows you how to do the basic management. And then when your employees are going in here, they can edit things here as well. So we could put Tyler Talks and we can click update on this record. And you'll see down here is where the record updates, and it just updated. So there are some basic abilities and functions there. Now you do want to get these fields set up in advance, because if you start adding more, Appgyver has these set up as a schema, which I covered in the how to create a social or sharing app playlist. So you want to build out, it's better to have more fields than less, because it's easier to remove than to add, but we'll just go over the basics here. So now we're going to cover making the app. So when I duplicated the application, I believe it's called Coffee Canine, from my how to create a social or sharing app playlist, I had a bunch of pages. I deleted all of them except these. And the login page I kept the same. So if you want to learn how to get this set up, check out that playlist. It's broken down video by video on the different features. But what I'm going to do here is I want to save the user's email address, because that's important information. So I want to get that information and then have it in the posted by field. That way I can't say, oh, I want someone else's password. It's the account that I'm in. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to this sign in option, and we're going to show the logic. So you'll see the button logic here it's honestly pretty complex. So what we're going to do is we're going to add in an app variable. So if you go to the variables slider, what we're going to do is we're going to get the username variable. So I made this one before this video. I literally just clicked add app variable and named it username. So when we click sign in, all of this happens, and we just need to do one more thing, which is save the app variable and get that email address. We're using an app variable so that it can be used across the different basically pages of the application. So you'll see we have this sign in, and we're just going to connect the two nodes. So we will connect the top node, which should be the successful sign in, and then the variable name, we are going to use username and click save. And the assigned value is actually going to be a data variable. And again, this is from a previous video, but if we go into app variables, you'll see tons of options. And if we go to data variables, you'll see more. So basically what we're looking for is the email credential, which was a page variable. So you'll see we have credentials, and we're going to click email and save. And then we're going to click save. So now we have the app variable, which is accessed from across different pages of the user's email address. So now what we can do is we're going to go to actually build this out. So our home screen is literally just home. It says welcome. You can add in whatever components you want from the right hand or the left hand side over here. Now, another thing to note is if you're interested, you could use list items and have a little image right here and then text to say, password reset, hardware issue, network issue, and have a little image. That way it's more visually appealing. But I'm just using a button right now, and I'm just putting basic issues. And then when we click save, we will now go to show logic for button. And this is where we're getting started. So if you're a little bit confused, right now, the authentication you set up by clicking auth and remove authentication. So we're going to do a quick reset in this video really fast and let you know that I've copied this application. So if you need to learn to do this from scratch, I'll have that series in the description. But basically, I have this login view, which I created using all of the Appgyver plugins, setups, features, etc. And it enabled me to get this set up. Most of that functionality is already built out. So once the user signs in, they access all of this. If you don't want authentication, you can just click remove, and it'll go to whatever your default home page is. So for the sake of speeding this video up just a bit, I would normally use this, but we need to test if it's essentially saving this information correctly. So we can't do that just yet. So we have this button that just opens up our miscellaneous forum page. If you want, you can add more buttons and then basically have them for each issue, and then copy the following steps because I'm only going to have one category. You can make as many categories as you want and build out as many collections as you need, which correspond to those categories in Firebase. So we're going to now go to the miscellaneous forum where that page takes us. So you log in, get to your home page, click a button which takes you to the corresponding forum, or in this case, ticketing subject. And then what you have here is your title. Then you have a basic text box, so you have title and text. And then 3 different boxes which basically hold your information from the user. So what we have here is these are literally just your input field. So what you need to do is you need to make sure that your data variables are set up before moving forward. So for data resources, you'll see we have miscellaneous forum. If you need to add a data resource, you just click add resource, REST API direct integration, and then you fill out all of this information, which I'll walk you through in just a second. Now I'm going to look through the miscellaneous forum. So I named mine miscellaneous forum. And then in Appgyver, you'll see what this looks like in just a second. The description's not really relevant. This will be your resource URL for the first half. So https://firestore.googleapis.com/v1. Now, the GET request is the remainder of the URL. So I'm actually in Firebase right now. So when I click on the collection, you'll see up at the top, we have project/coffeecanine/firestore. You'll see we have all of this information. So what you're trying to do is you're taking everything from projects down to the collection name. So in this case, I would take everything from project all the way down to miscellaneous forum. So that's the general idea here, is that's all the information, but you need to fill it in this format. So it's project, and then username, which is Coffee Canine for me, and then it's /databases/default in parentheses /documents/miscellaneous forums. So we'll look at this over here. So you have project, you have your username, you can ignore this part. You'll see right here is the collection name. So that's all there is to it. Again, it's the relative path will be the same. This path right here, you just copy /projects/your username /databases, which stays the same, /default, which stays the same, /documents, which also stays the same, and then finally /the name of that collection. Your response key path will be documents. You'll go to tests, and then you will be able to verify any information. So basically, you would normally enter in any changes here, and then click Run Test and set schema from response. Since I have some authorization stuff set up, I'm ignoring that. But basically, when you set the schema from response, it gives you these 3 fields, and then the name, updated time, and created time. These are the objects or properties that the user is interacting with. The rest of it's just by default. So Again, that's in more detail in the how to create a social or sharing app playlist, but that's the general idea. Once that's built out, you can now assign labels to each of these input fields, and you can add more or less if you need to. So you'll see the label, we have the value, which is posted by, which is a page variable. And then we have the placeholder text. So we now need to add page variables because we can't just immediately send everything over. So we have to store it temporarily and then send it over via the API. So we can set page variables. You'll see I have description, name, posted by. So we have name, description, posted by. And then we have the corresponding page variable for each. So it's pretty simple. Now, here's the tricky part. When we get to submit ticket, we have some pretty complex logic. So I'll walk you through this. This is the same exact logic from the how to create a social or sharing app playlist. So you'll see the first one is an if condition. So you'll see it right here in all caps, not, and then in a wider parentheses, is underscore empty, parentheses, page variable dot name. So this is just the page variable for the name. A shortcut to get your page variables, you can click on your page variable option here and then double click the page variable for whichever one you're interested in, and it'll automatically paste it in. So basically in parentheses here, you'll have is empty, parentheses, page variable dot name, or page vars dot name, and that's in wider parentheses with not. So basically this is validating that there's information in this name field. The reason you want to make sure that you have that information is users could post without it. And if there is already a ticket or something like that, you don't want users to be able to post any empty information and potentially override other data. So if this if statement, if it's not empty, so there is something there, we go to the next if statement. If it is empty, we get a little toast dialog which says please add your name. So your if statements are right here on the core logic side, and your toast message is right here. Now the next if statement, same exact setup, but for the description. So the idea is it checks for the top field. If it's empty, gives them an error. If it's not empty, it goes to the next field. If that next field is empty, and we repeat the logic. So in parentheses here we have page vars dot description, and then that's in parentheses with is empty, which is in parentheses next to not in all caps. So you can copy that or pause the video, and then you'll see we have please add the description, and then we follow the exact same logic for the next one, which is for page variable posted by. So there is everything set up there. I'll skip that. And then you'll see again toast for add your name. And then this ends with a data request. So what we've done is if this is empty, give an error. If this is empty, give an error. If this is empty, give an error. If all of them have values, do this data request. Now here is the formula for this. Basically, I'm submitting to this URL here. So what this is doing, this will look familiar, is this is basically the exact same URL that we were just using when we configured for data. So we have the https /firestore.googleapis.com/v1, and then the second half, which is /projects /my username, which is coffeecanine, /databases, which is default text you don't need to change, /default in parentheses, which you don't need to change, /documents, which again you do not need to change, /miscellaneous forum, /. And then this is encapsulated, so basically it just means you have the double quotes on either side of the text. So we will just click save there, as that's sending to the correct URL. We are using the post, and then for the, you can ignore headers, but for the request body, this is the part that's a little tricky. So this is basically your schema. This will look a little bit familiar. So you'll see we have all of this information here. So there's a quick and easy way to get this information so that you don't have to try to type all of this You'll see there's a bunch of spaces, different brackets, and the formatting can be a little odd. So we're going to do a quick shortcut to get this information and copy it in. So what we've already done is you'll see we have this URL here. So what we can do is we can copy this entire URL and basically paste that in. And you'll see we get all of this information. Now, the one thing to note here is this is for basically everything in this specific API, or in this, we'll call it the collection. So we don't need to copy all of this because there's actually two separate things here. So you'll notice we have the first request and then the second request. So if you want, you can be a little bit more specific and you can try to, I don't know if this will work. Let's double check. So we'll copy the name of the document and you can paste that in right here. So it's not going to let you do that. You probably need to double check and figure out what exactly you need to do to get this information. Because I believe, let's see, I don't think we need the 2F part. You'll see the document name starts with JA9, so let's try this instead. There we go. So this pulls up the specific document. So what I did is I just have this part copied in. And you'll notice we have name, fields, our 3 user inputs, and then the default info. So this should look similar to what you just saw in Appgyver. So what we're going to be doing now is we're going to compare this to what is in my call here in the request body. So it starts out with fields, and then it ends with the posted by and a couple of brackets. So what we need is from fields down to the last bracket. So you're basically just copying this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste it in here and show you the changes that I made side by side. So the first thing, you need a new bracket, and then you'll see it goes all the way through. So you have fields, you have your description, string value, etc. And then at the very end, you'll see we have 3 brackets. So that would effectively be enough to get the actual information. This statement is now identical to this one, excluding the fact that we have changed a couple of values. But the structure is what you need. So go ahead, pause the video, get this structure set up. Again, you're just basically copying in, it doesn't matter how many values, whether you have 3 or 10, before the fields, and then to the last bracket before this little comma before the created time. So we will go ahead and close that, and we will now delete this so that we're dealing with the original information. So now you should effectively have something that looks similar to this. Now, pasting the old one back in, you'll see that you're going to have actual values in here. So what we're trying to do is we're telling Appgyver, okay, here are the fields. There's a description field, and it currently has the value I'm locked out. We want to change this to be the page variable, which is the data the user's entering. Then for name, we currently have the value password reset. I'm going to change this to the variable for the description, and we're just going to copy that. So basically you have something here that says we're sending a string value, and then it says what the string value is. So we'll go through once more and delete this, and we're going to build it out. So you'll have your fields, your name, and where you see string value to the right of the colon or semicolon, you'll see your text. So yours will be green, and it'll look like this. You can just delete the quotes, and you can type in pagevars.name. Again, remember, if you want to get your page variables, you can click right here and double click, and it will immediately populate with that page variable. You're going to repeat the process, so you're going to move over. So the string value, you're not going to edit, and you're not going to edit the value outside of the bracket either. Again, the name is the category, string value is telling what data type, and then the value here is what you're changing to basically say, here's what's being sent. So That's everything that you need to do. Go ahead and get yours set up to correspond with each of your categories. And then the final thing we're going to do is we don't want the user to be able to say, oh, hey, it's I want my password reset for someone else, and then get access to an account that they shouldn't. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull in the app variable. And if you remember, we have the app variable username. So now it's going to grab the user's username. So we're going to click save. And we can actually go ahead and save this as well. And let's go ahead and test it out. So we're going to put test at test.com. And then password, we're going to put testing. Now, we're going to click sign in. You'll see it says incorrect. We're going to click create account. And you'll see it's working, but we're going to add an S just to show you that it won't let you log in with incorrect credentials. So when we delete that, we can now sign in. We're now going to click basic issues. And here we're going to submit a ticket. So the user is going to type in, let's just say, let's try to think of a different issue. Network down. Description, I can't get on the internet. And then posted by, we'll put Tyler just to see what happens because we've technically disabled this. But we're going to click submit ticket. So now when we scroll down, we're basically just waiting. It usually takes a second or two. You'll see network down. I can't get on the internet. And instead of it saying Tyler, it's saying test at test.com, which is that email address that we added in the beginning. So basically, we can effectively delete this input field. If you want users to be able to say who's posting, completely fine, you can keep it. So it's your choice. You can either have this input field and send the information from this input field, or you can send the information from the original variable. So here's how you swap between the two. You have your post method, and again, you don't need headers. So the request body, the variable created by, you just change this. Either you can have it set as your app variable, which pulls the email address when the user logs in, or you can set it to be the page variable, which is the page variable posted by. It's completely up to you, whichever works best. So basically, that is how you get those tickets submitted. You just submit to the correct, basically the correct collection. So you can go and create a new collection in Firebase. Let's just say you want to call it testing. And it's a bad idea to do this, but I would call the document testing. And we'll put name 1. You can add a field, name 2, and then put some sample values and click save. And now, instead of the miscellaneous forum, we now have a testing as well. So when you're going, let's just say you want to recreate a new page and submit tickets to a different address. You can click and copy all of this information. And when you go to data, all you have to do is swap out the text miscellaneous forum for the name of your new collection. And it's that simple. So you can have collections for different issues. If you're in the food service industry, you can have them for different types of food orders like cake, or maybe you want to have it for like meat dishes or sides, etc. So there are tons of ways to have this be one category, and then when people go back, there's a button below this which will have a different series of issues. And again, users will be able to click on it, see everything, and then on your end for internal users, you can give them the Firebase access and they'll log in, make any changes that they want. And if I were a user and I see, okay, they can't get on the internet, maybe I should reset their account. I'll look at that email. I can go to the authentication tab. I find that email and I can click disable account, for example. And then when the user's logged out, they won't be able to log in anymore. So basic things, just a few interesting options for you to test out. It doesn't look like it's going to kick them out immediately. So I'm on that email right now. So bear that in mind. But that is something that's relatively simple and easy to use. So I hope this video was helpful and it gives you a general idea of how to make some kind of a ticketing style app. If you have any questions, drop them in the comment box below, and I'll see you all in the next video.